being a minority in Hollywood is tough. You don't wait on Hollywood. Hollywood is a bank. And the decision makers don't get the content.
And we'll just get to the point where we get tired of it and someone will come out and be the sacrificial lamb.
I heard all this Oscar talk about Samuel Jackson and Miss John Travolta. But to me, the real story is about them two sweet little hillbillies that made passionate love to that big black man.
The Wayans brothers have been off our screens for a time now, with many asking where they are and what they are up to. Many theories have been floated around as to their unceremoniously overlooked them for better performers. Another idea suggests that their shows were losing patronage and ratings, discouraging investors from investing money into their career. These answers appear to have some grain of truth. The straw that broke the camel's back is one event that happened on the set of Saturday Night Live. According to the grapevine, one of the brothers provoked a few Hollywood producers in a now famous SNL scene, signing their exit from the movie business.
I heard all this Oscar talk about Samuel Jackson and Miss John Travolta. But to me, the real story is about them two sweet little hillbillies that made passionate love to that big black man.
What scene is it? And is there any truth to the rumor? Stick with me as I digest all the nitty-gritty information about why the Wayans are no longer on our screens. Talk to anyone born in the 70s and 80s about their favorite 90s TV shows, and you'll most definitely hear 3 or 4 shows that featured either one or all of the Wayans brothers. Damon Wayans, the 4th oldest of the Wayans brothers, was tipped for the stars. He exuded great acting skills and an excellent stand-up comedy repertoire, and of course the looks to match. It isn't far-fetched to say that the Wayans dynasty ruled black homes in the 9S with It was the 11th season of the hugely popular Saturday Night Live when Damon Wayans was chosen as a cast member. Actor and comedian Eddie Murphy had just left the show. So many fans thought Damon was brought in to fill in the big gaps left by the famous comedian. However, director Lorne Michaels thought that the shoes would be too big for Damon to fill, given Eddie Murphy's pedigree. So he gave Damon limited screen time, probably to ease him into the scheme. David Peisner stated that Murphy had indeed given Wayans the following advice ahead to the latter's SNL debut. If you want to stand out, write your own bits. Even if you only do one sketch, make sure it's based around you. Otherwise, you get pulled in and become Garrett Morris, for those who may not know. Garrett Morris was the first black actor to be cast as a part of the Saturday Night Live show. The veteran comedian was frequently given lesser roles, while others like John Lucci Chevrolet, Chase Bill Murray, and Dan Aykroyd got more important roles that forced them into the spotlight, following Murphy's suggestion and not wanting to be another Garrett Morris. Damon Wayans tried everything he could to stand out. He offered several sketch ideas on a weekly basis, only to have them rejected. Instead, he was given smaller roles, sometimes with no lines at all. Damon remembered, "They had me in scenes where I would just hold a spear and I'm like, I'm not doing that. My mother's going to watch the show. No lines, just holding the spear and a thong. I'm like, I can't do this. I said, you all need to hire an extra for this. And they told me, you're not a team player. I said, no, I'm just not a slave." Damon's resentment at being allocated minor, often non-speaking roles grew, and he began to have disagreements with the show's creators. The show's ratings also began to fall, putting extra pressure on the producers to create some magic. Damon and the show's producers clashed when the comic complained about the racial imbalance on site. "It's too white in here. It hurts my eyes," he once said at the studios while wearing thick shades. He told The Breakfast Club that he purposefully caused friction in the studios because the producers weren't giving him enough screen time. "I built a tension in there, and it was just because they wouldn't let me. You know, comedy is tension, but when you release the tension, that's where the laugh comes from, but they just wanted me to be too submissive, and I couldn't." The producers appeared to misunderstand Damon's purpose and continued to cast him in minor roles, and the tension continued to develop until the comic was requested to play a police officer in a comedy titled Mr. Monopoly, a parody of the immensely popular drama television series Miami Vice. During rehearsal for the shot, Juan donned a suit identical to what Crockett and Tubbs wore on the popular TV series, but the producers didn't like Damon's wardrobe and chose to modify it after the rehearsal. Michaels pulled Damon aside and informed him, "You look like a pimp in that suit. I want you to convert it into a cop's uniform." Damon snapped and decided to ruin the entire show. In his opinion, the sketch wasn't funny, and the producer's micromanagement of the sketch was too much for him. Damon had it up to his neck and wanted the entire world to know about it. It was as if the white producers didn't like the black artists and wanted to dim their shine. During the live recording of the sketch, Wayans performed his part as an over-the-top sissy homo-esque stereotype. It wasn't how the plot was written, and it wasn't what any of the cast or crew expected either. Everyone on stage felt a ward as they were caught aback by Damon's off-script character and talk. The scene produced a few giggles, totally threw everyone off explaining his behavior to the Weekender. Damon said he was upset and angry. I was upset, which is why it wasn't hilarious. It was soon after Eddie Murphy left the show, and they weren't letting me do things he would do, so I went against the script out of aggravation. Needless to say, Damon was fired immediately after the stunt he pulled to no one's surprise. Not even the comedian he confessed that he sabotaged the show, so he would get fired after getting frustrated at his treatment on set. However, Damon didn't give up. He was down, but not out. He wanted Hollywood to one day tell a story that'll inspire the next generation of black performers, so he never gave up. He teamed up with his brother Keenan Wayans in the sketch comedy show In Living Color, which became an instant hit. The whole black community was talking about it and couldn't wait to enjoy the show that so much reflected their daily lives. A show that was produced by blacks for blacks, portrayed by black in living color, took off to amazing ratings, and everyone was happy. Especially Damon Wayans. Finally, he had found a place that he could call home, a stage where he could harness his talent and hone his obvious skills alongside his older brother Keenan. He became the star of the sketch comedy show In Living Color, which became a pop culture phenomenon in the 90s. Everything I tried to accomplish on Saturday Night Live was actually something I could do on In Living Color. He later commented, however, that a disappointing appointment was once again waiting in the wings for Wayans Brothers. After 3 years and 5 successful seasons, the comic series was yanked off our TV sets. The black community was disappointed because the show that they called their own was taken away from them without any tangible reason. It all started when Fox Broadcasting, the TV network that televised In Living Color, chose to show reruns instead of brand new series. Fox picked to play old episodes instead of new ones. This meant that fans would get tired of the show because they had already watched the episodes, which would affect the show's numbers. This was a low blow for the Wayans and a tough pill to accept by the black community. Hollywood had once again thrown a wrench in their works, slowing the development of black TV series and finally black talents. Wayans stated his displeasure and dismay when the executives of Fox Broadcasting called him on Friday night to inform him that they were going to perform reruns the next Monday, leaving little room for objection. "To tell you the truth," he adds, "I was so astonished I kept screaming, 'You're kidding, you're joking.' They were so sly about it. Then they said they were just going to air repeats from the first season, but they're not even doing that. They're editing episodes from all various seasons. I was supposed to have that control, but even that was seized. The years I spent into the show were robbed from me. As if stunting the growth of black shows wasn't enough, the executives chose to spread rumors to dent the image of the outstanding black producers and actors in Hollywood. They claimed that when Keenan was told of the reruns, he went about the studio screaming his lungs out at everyone and making a scene. However, Keenan countered their comments by claiming, 'I've never yelled in my life. I'm too young to have a stroke.' They also claimed that Keenan hid one of the fresh episodes from the executives, so they had to run repeats to cover for Keenan's shenanigans. Manager Gold acknowledges there was a battle of wills, but he held the tape for more than 2 hours after they made their choice to play the reruns. They were basically saying, "F you, we have business control," so Keenan was responding, "Oh yeah, F you, I have creative control." After several more days of bickering and posturing, Wayans gave up and walked off the program forever. "It was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever had to do," he says, "but I had to. I couldn't condone what they did and how they did it. No one wanted me to quit, but I couldn't continue in good conscience. I couldn't offer them a show of a particular quality and expect them to return that quality." Keenan left the show, and his brothers Marlon and Damon, who had no contract with Fox, followed suit. Sean and Kim Wayans would later follow them out of the door as a gesture of family unity, with the Wayans out of the program. the largely black show began taking on white tones, with producers failing to make sketches that the black community could relate to. Keenan viewed this as a tragedy. "It has always been comedy from an African American point of view," he says, "but now they have all white consultants. There's a narrow line between African American humor and making fun of African Americans. Fox didn't have the good taste to bring in that other voice, which is disrespectful not only to the show, but to a significant section of the community. However, they are not easily discouraged from following their dreams. The Wayans brothers loved making their first comic horror film, Scary Movie, the movie made by Marlon and Sean Wayans and directed by Keenan Wayans PAIED several movie categories, including horror, slasher, and mystery genres. Scary Movie was the breakthrough the Wayans had been looking for, as it exceeded all expectations both on the domestic and international front. Shot on a budget of $19 million, the movie went on to garner a huge $278 million in sales at the box office. The Wayans had finally arrived. Their star had finally shown Scary Movie brought them international attention, as they proved to the world what a black was capable of if given the chance. The success of the first movie motivated. This time, the film got negative reactions, which is reasonable given that Hollywood didn't like the initial success of the first series. CNN called it a vaudeville sketch. This is not a movie. It's a vaudeville sketch aimed for the lowest common denominator. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Just know what you're getting for your money, and also know that if you've seen the trailer, you've seen many of the greatest. A third episode was released 2 years after the first, but one thing was notable. No member of the Wayans family was present in the cast or crew. With many fans asking what happened, the Wayans had apparently been robbed of their hard work once more. One famous white Hollywood producer had put a wrench in their works and disrupted their progress, explaining what happened to the film series. Marlon Wayans said that Harvey Weinstein and his brother Bob stole their business. They were nasty as F. He said of the Weinsteins, "We didn't walk away from a franchise they didn't want to make, and they snatched it. The Weinsteins did some really terrible things like R and pillage villages, and that's just how they did their business. So it wasn't that we ever walked away from our franchise that we created. It was taken, and us being the creatives, we were like, all right, bet F, you are now watching what I create."